Let's wave for everyone. Hey, folks. Thanks for joining us. We're about to start. There's like a minute and a bit until our official start time. We have Jacob back, thankfully.
Woo-hoo.
And it's going to be so much more fun than yesterday. Hey, Alan Abraham. That's a cool name. Where are you from? I'm just getting ready to get started in 1 minute.
Hey, Brainchild. How's it going?
Welcome back. It's nice having familiar faces around. Hey, Sachin. Thanks for taking part. We're about to get started, 30 seconds-ish, and we're off. Alrighty, so in 3, 2, 1, hey everyone, my name is Morgan, and with me today is Jacob. Say hi, Jacob.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you again.
So both of us work for Decentology, and we're software developers, and we're hosting these Mercury Flow Developer Hours daily, where we talk about our experience, we talk about some code, and we show you examples, we walk you through how to build things, and just try to have a good time. Today, we're going to have a little bit of a different format. Instead of hitting the code ASAP, we're going to open it up a little bit and discuss our journeys, because at the end of the day, we want you guys to be able to build a career out of this. And it can be daunting for a new industry like blockchain, like Web3, how to enter it, what to expect. And from us, people that are in the industry, I think we can share some useful tips and tricks and what to expect. So hopefully this is something that's going to be interesting, and we're going to spend maybe 10, 15 minutes on this. And be sure to bring up any questions that you might have related to career or what to study, that kind of thing. And we're gonna give our best. All right, so Jacob, how did you get started with Web3?
Well, it's a good question, Morgan. So the truth is, I recently got into the blockchain / Web3 space. Only maybe I think it was like a year and a half ago at this point. For those of you that don't know, I go to Northwestern University, and it all started by just touring around a club fair. There was one club, it was called the Blockchain Club, which at the time I was like, what the heck is blockchain? I was so confused. But I was like, oh, it's computer sciencey, and that related to my major. And so I went to the Blockchain Club. They introduced me to Solidity and all that stuff, which is funny because now I know practically nothing about Solidity, and I'm entirely on Flow. But they introduced me to the Open World Builders Bootcamp that the Flow team did about 2 summers ago at this point. And I was lucky enough to pair with a member of the Decentology team during that boot camp. His name is John Kim. And we built a capstone project together. And that boot camp got me going in the blockchain space. And I thought it was super cool, because sometimes when you computer science, especially, as a college student, you think about the leak code grind, if any of you are familiar with leak code. And, the Web 2 space can be stressful because it's it's very overloaded. But I loved Web 3 right off the bat. It was super fun, and the OWB bootcamp was great for me. And now being with Decentology for about a year and a half now has just been super, super cool. So that's kind of how I got into it. Morgan, I'm curious how you got
Sure.
into it.
I wonder, prior to Web3, how much programming have you done up to that point in your life?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I've been coding since like my freshman year of high school or end of middle school. Um, but a lot of that, honestly, like I think, all throughout high school, it was just like, I would code in class and, I wasn't really doing personal projects on my own. But towards the end of high school and early college, I was doing a bunch of, front end code. I was building full stack applications with React and Node.js and, that sort of thing. I built a few personal projects of my own, like a chatting app. Is usually like the default one. I built like a music app and stuff like that, like a Spotify replica. But I never really latched onto that kind of stuff, and I was never a big fan of it. So that when I started to get introduced to smart contracts and stuff like Solidity, which again I know nothing about now, but I thought it was really cool at the time. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And it's because blockchain as a whole is so new, you kind of get that feeling of like, oh my God, like this is such a new and cool experience. I'm in at the ground level. Like it's a lot to explore here. And so yeah, like I said, I just immediately was all in.
And I wonder, did you face any roadblocks? Because the kind of excitement that I'm hearing from you is, well, I mean, it's kind of unique because with software you have tons and tons of stuff that you have to understand first, especially with something new before you can, hit the ground running. So I wonder what kind of roadblocks did you
Yeah.
face?
Well, the first roadblock I faced was people sort of telling me that I was kind of making a mistake in the Web3 space. Because again, like even a year and a half ago, like I mean, even now, it's still this stuff is so new, right? Um, but when I first started getting into blockchain around 2 years ago, everyone would tell me, "Oh, this is you're going down, a dead end. This is, not a good idea." So I think the first roadblock I faced was like public, like sentiment and having to deal with like people viewing it as a sort of like mistake almost. But yeah, in terms of like the programming aspect, I would say learning a new language and learning a new system, as always, is gonna give massive roadblocks, right? The first time I was learning React and Node.js, you kind of start asking yourself like, what's a front end? What's a back end? What are all these concepts? And so being introduced to something like a smart contract, which as a Web2 developer makes no sense. And even the concept of like transparency and security, what are these sorts of things, and so learning that through a smart through smart contracts and through all these blockchains was definitely a roadblock as learning any new programming language is.
Would you say that it was harder to get into, let's say, Flow than it was for you to get into React and Node?
Honestly, I thought it was easier, because at least I started my Flow experience using the OW that the Flow team hosted about 2 summers ago. And I think whenever when anyone asks me like what's your biggest piece of advice if you want to like get going in the blockchain space, it's to really participate in stuff like these hackathons and these boot camps, and really be engaged and at the front of these sorts of things, because there's so many resources and so many people that are willing to help you out. And you don't get that with something like Web2, right? Because when I want to learn React, I mean, the only outlet I can have is to go on Stack Overflow for 15 hours and beg for an answer. But there aren't people directly, talking to you and wanting you to learn, unless you're in school or something like that. But at least for me, during that boot camp, I had, 10 people, around me trying to get me to understand this new thing. And I think blockchain as a whole is very inclusive, or it aims to be. It aims to be for everybody. And so I think that at least the community around Web3 is so much better. And they really try to include and help you in your journey. And I think that's why getting into Web3 was so much easier for me than
Well, I
Web2.
guess the point that that leads to is anything that's new like blockchain, the people that are gonna latch onto it are people that are not afraid of new things, are not afraid of changing up
Yes.
what they know, and it's kind of like that. Um, are you the type of person that goes with the flow? No pun intended. Or are you a pioneer and you're into new things and exploring? And oftentimes the people that are pioneers and like to explore, they're the ones that you can learn most from. Um, and such as the industry is right now, the majority of the people are pioneers. People that are just exploring and building. And you guys are also pioneers. Hey, Melvin, welcome to Flow Developer Hours. You pioneer. Um,
Hey, Melvin.
so here's the thing. When you know discuss like things like getting with the community, understanding the concepts. Another concern is, and this is like a more worldly concern, is how to make a living from it. Like at the end of the day, you want to be able to sustain yourself. You want to do things that you love, but you want for it to be a fruitful endeavor. So have you considered pros and cons of this industry versus like a Web 2 industry? Um, has that crossed your mind?
Yeah, so I think I can speak from my own personal experience. Like I was talking about before, like in Web 2, there's so much competition around it, and it's a very like I think it like I mean, at least in my opinion, it's a very like filled industry in the sense that, as a college student applying for certain roles and positions, like, there's definitely a grind to that. And everyone's competing, and it's a very stressful environment. I refer to like the leak code grind a lot, in the sense that, a lot of these job interviews always, will say, we require 4 years of professional experience. You need to know React, you need to know SQL, you need to know Node.js, and then they list all these things, and it's like, how would I possibly know all that as a third year in college? And this applies to everyone. I'm just talking from my own experience, but it seems like the expectation is getting to the point where it's impossible to achieve that, right? But in the blockchain space, there are a ton of opportunities. I mean, if you go in any Discord, you could even go in the Flow Discord, or even sometimes the Decentology Discord, where people will literally post looking for blockchain dev, looking for cadence developer, looking for Solidity developer, all the time. And so I think that, at least blockchain, the roles are much more available, and they aren't demanding impossible standards.
which is which is what
I
you
hope that made
get
sense.
when you get a new industry. You won't have a ton of people there, and you won't have a ton of really good and really experienced people competing for low level positions or entry level positions, where most people start their careers. And if all of the entry positions are occupied by people that have 4 years of experience, then how does one get ahead and get into the industry? So that's a tough one for Web 2 for sure, just because there's so much out there. Um, so would you say it's just a more lucrative career right now than Web 2?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. I just think it's much more exciting. I also just prefer Web3. I think it's a lot cooler. I love developing in the blockchain space. And yeah, the people are better. I think jobs are more open, and yeah, overall, I think it's definitely more
So there
lucrative.
you go. If anyone's still considering, if someone's on the fence, whether you go with the standard Web 2 career path, or trying something new, Jacob just outlined all the benefits. Like it's a new space, less competition, very lucrative careers, and this is pretty much like your first step in that direction. And I know that a lot of people attending this hackathon are students, just getting started in their life, in their professional careers. This is one of those concerns, um, and one of those questions that you have to answer by the time you finish your school is where do I go next? And with Web3, obviously it's not an easy path. There's tons to learn, and the roadblocks are there. When something's super easy to do, most likely everyone's doing it already. But don't be discouraged. Don't be dissuaded. And there's tons of help out there. Like, for example, me and Jacob, we're out here to help you. If you have any questions, help you answer those questions and get you ahead. From my perspective, I have a significant amount of Web 2 experience, and not only Web 2 but native app development. And I have to say that what I found, like, developers are pretty cool as a community anyway, and there's tons of helpful people. You can find them on Stack Overflow. Oftentimes, if you post a question, if it's not something completely obscure, most likely you'll get an answer. There's an open source community. React is open source, right? People maintain it and contribute to it without any kind of expectation of getting a reward. But Web3 just takes that to another level where it's literally people dedicated towards helping you succeed. So it's like developers are great, but Web3 developers are even more awesome. Making the switch, it's not like you're not going to touch any Web 2 tech. You still need your front end stack. You oftentimes might even need a back end stack. So, considering Web 3, you should not think of it as either or in terms of what you learn. If you like to dabble in different things, then Web 3 includes everything that Web 2 has, just maybe a little bit decentralized, as per the name. And really the best time to start is now. It's getting more and more established. There's more and more opportunity, but there's still some hurdles out there, and that affords new entrants a lot of room to breathe and get started. Mm-hmm. So there's, this is the intro. We wanted to showcase what we feel like is a great opportunity in the space for you guys to build a career out of, and we have some news also when it comes to attending these developer hours. By the end of today's developer hours, we're going to look for the best question, the most interesting, the most insightful, the most attentive question that you guys post. And whoever is the author will receive, check this out, $100 in FUSD. So pay attention, participate, be active, and there's not that many people on the stream, so like chances are, you might be the one, right, Jacob?
Chances are high. Yeah, the chances are high. I would ask the questions if I were you.
Same here. Like, we thought about creating double accounts and posting.
Yeah.
But this is all on you guys. We want this to be interactive. We want this to be beneficial for everyone, and just take part. And we're gonna start the screencast portion of this stream. If everyone's ready, 3, 2, 1, and we're off. So just a little bit of background, what we're doing. Close these up. So there's this, let me increase the font size a little bit. So there's this repository, github.com/decentology/mercuryhopium. I'm going to share this on YouTube and on Slack. What you'll find here is a basic setup for a testnet development environment. So this does not have a lot of dependencies. The only flow related dependencies you'll find are FCL and flow types. And then we have the baseline, which is create React app. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. So this is something that, zoom in please. All right. We'll zoom in a little bit more. Perhaps perhaps one more. And here too. I think that should be good. Brainchild, do let me know if this is legible. Cool. So, getting started. When you download that repository, you'll get to install your npm packages, npmi, and then what next? All right. Brainchild says it's cool, then we're legible. Let's see here. One moment while I bring Jacob in, since he got discarded for some reason. Jacob, are you there? Okay, let's see if you're visible or not. All right, so hopefully Jacob's visible. His audio testing. Do you want to test your audio?
Test. Oh yeah, I can see myself. Test.
Sweet. Well, that's great. So what we're gonna do is, I guess, go through and see what this tiny little app looks like. So when you open up Hopium and you go yarn start, this will launch the React app, and you'll see just a single button. It says sign in /up. All right. You click on that, and you'll get taken to a wallet provider. This is the FCL layer, giving us some options for testnet wallets. And we're going to pick Blockto. And since I'm already signed in, I'm going to create another account using my Decentology email. While I'm doing this, Jacob, would you like to share something with regards to FCL?
Yeah. So in terms of these testnet wallets, it's super simple to get going with these. All you're really doing, well, I mean, I guess you would think that you would have to install a ton of dependencies and stuff like that. Really, all you need is just you need to just install the Flow CLI, and once you do that, I mean, you're really just configuring FCL. So if we go to the code, you would see that it's essentially just, you're putting 2 lines on your FCL config, and it just hooks it up right to Blockto, and bam, you're authenticated if you type in your username and the security code it sends you.
Yep, and those 2 lines you'll find in app.jsx. Over there, lines 5, 6, and 7 is where we provide the access node. This is where we enter the Flow universe and talk to nodes that can give us information. And then the second part is the challenge handshake, which is where we get to pick a wallet provider. All right, so I created an account. I have this beautiful address, and I can confirm my sign-in procedure. And now I'm officially signed in. Okay, so now that I'm signed in, I can refresh this page, and I'm still signed in. This is sort of, it can take over a whole user authentication system that you might build with, let's say, Google account or Facebook or any of the other identity providers. This could, completely supplement that or replace that even. All right, so how does this work? Well, you'll be surprised. There's only 75 lines in this app.jsx. The top will find all the dependencies really that we need, which is we're using React, essentially for the create React app part. And we're using Flow FCL and Flow types. We configure the FCL with the 2-liner that Jacob mentioned. And then we open it up for our app. Okay. So in here, we need a couple of things. The first one is we need a place to store the current user somehow. And for that, using state, which is a React hook for storing and updating a variable inside of React. And then the second part is when the component mounts, the page is loaded for the first time, we want to read that from FCL. We want to get the user's information onto our user variable. And for that, we call current user, and we subscribe to any kind of changes within that user variable. And if we get a user, we set the user, which is the second part of the use state hook, which is the setter, and we feed it the user object that we just received. You can see it in the console right here. Hopefully this is big enough. In the console right here, we have the user object that contains the address and some other information related to FCL. All right. And once we complete this section, then we can start playing around with things like authenticating, unauthenticating, and in this case, we have a switch where we rendered the sign-in button if the user's logged in, and we render or not logged in, and if the user's logged in, and we render the sign out and the execute script button. This execute script button is just to provide us with an entry point for sending actual Cadence code onto Flow testnet and seeing the results. All right, Jacob. So we have a 0.001 flow balance. Would you consider that a low balance?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely low balance.
And how would we amend that?
Well, on testnet, you actually have to go to something called a faucet, and so Flow has a Flow faucet that you can go to, and you can provide your account, and the faucet will mint Flow token into your account. And so you'll often find yourself doing this when you need to like deploy contracts, and even if you just want Flow token in your account, you'll need to go to this faucet and mint some Flow token into your account.
All right. The URL is testnet-faucet.onflow.org. I copied that over to YouTube, and it's a pretty simple process. You need to feed your account address on testnet, select what kind of token you want to receive, and complete a CAPTCHA. Our account address is right here, but it can also be found in the user object faucet. That's correct, my Rab. It's a Flow testnet faucet. So we grab the account address, we copy it over into the address field, and we complete the CAPTCHA, hoping and praying that we're human. So this is bicycles. Okay. Helping AIs across the planet.
Will he complete the test?
Yes. I am human, everyone. I am still human. Click the fund account button. This is a transaction, so it takes a little bit of time to complete. But once it is completed, we'll get to look at our balance in our app, directly in our app. Cool. So
yeah, and like Morgan said, this is on testnet. So if you don't see it transferred in right away, it's just because on testnet stuff takes a little longer than if you were on local emulator. So just wanted to point that out.
Yep. It simulates pretty much what you would see on the real mainnet with delays and everything. All right, so we're going to execute the script that fetches our balance, and boom, we have a 1000.001 flow. Now that's a lot better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
we're rich. It could be 1,100 if you asked a good question, by the way.
Well, we can only get 1,000 at a time, right?
Yeah, true.
How about we, we're rich. Let's spread the wealth a little bit. How about we implement a button that sends some amount of flow to some account? What do you think?
I like it.
All right. How about people in the chat? Don't remember, if you take part and you ask good questions, there's a bounty for $100 in FUSD at the end of the stream. So pay attention and take part. So we're gonna create a new button on here, and we're gonna simplify it as much as possible for now, and we're gonna add complexities later on. So, all right, give me some token. Man, Rav is going straight to the point. Well, if you give us your account address, we might just include you. First come, first serve, that kind of thing. All right, so we have this beautiful website. There's 2 buttons here. Let's add a third one right underneath execute script. Let's call this send flow, and on send, it's going to be our function right here. This is a testnet account. All right, we'll make sure to send you some flow. Cool. So on send is going to be an asynchronous closure, or a function, a fancy way for saying function. And we're just going to prevent the default. And what do we want? What do we want to happen when someone clicks on send? Well, we want to create a transaction, right? Where do we start, Jacob? We start with a fcl.send. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, so you want to send a new transaction, and so I believe that the syntax for that is fcl.send, and then there's a bunch of things that you would put in here, but the first one is the transaction code itself. So let's do that.
Absolutely. I'm just going to complete the payer, proposer, and authorizations section so that it's a cleaner setup. So going back to the previous developer hours, when signing transactions, there's at least 3 parts if there's authorization required. So there's a payer. Every transaction has one. This is the account that pays the transaction fees. Then there's the proposer, which is the account that Flow leverages the key sequence number, so that there's no double execution of transactions, because every transaction flip increments that number by 1. And then finally, there's the authorizations array, which for now includes just 1 account. Okay, and then finally we set the limit for how much gas we want to pay, and we're just going to use the upper limit, which is 9,999. One last bit is this fcl.send returns a promise, which is JavaScript, for an asynchronous result, and we're just going to decode that. So then just waits until the promise is fully resolved, and then takes the data that was returned, and we're going to use fcl.decode to convert that into something that's JavaScript. And we're going to save the transaction result. Okay, so now opening up the actual cadence source code block. What is event prevent default? So prevent default, this is a JavaScript thing. If this button was part of a form, for example, then you clicking on any button within a form submits that form and refreshes a page. And this is something that's unwanted. And to avoid that, we just prevent the default behavior. This is JavaScript and browser talk right here. All right, so now we're inside of the transaction body, and we want to send some flow to some specific account. hard-coded for now. So where do we start, Jacob? How do we send some flow?
Yeah, so if we think back to what we were doing in the flow playground, you just open up this transaction by probably importing flow token, right?
That's right.
Um, and and you'll need to if we go to the documentation, we can actually find where flow token lies on testnet.
So we open up flow docs, and where do we go from there?
So if what I usually do is I usually go to the search bar and just type in core contracts, and then once you click on that, it'll bring up all the like quote unquote core contracts or the most important ones. And these are the contracts that are like automatically deployed to the testnet for your benefit.
Sweet. So we found flow token, and the testnet address is 0x70, etc. And this is where we're going to import the flow token from this address. What else do we need for transferring flow tokens?
So I think I think that's the only import we should need, right?
Well,
or maybe fungible token.
That's exactly
Yeah.
It. So flow token implements the fungible token standard, and it has pretty much all the functionality embedded there. So we need that as well in our namespace. And this is the account address. So we're just going to do import fungible token from this account. And you can find these core contracts through this link. I'm going to share it on YouTube. Ba-bam. Here's everything.
Boom.
Okay. So now we got that. Okay. We got the fungible token. We have the flow token available. What next?
So the next thing we'll have to do is, we put the transaction there, and so we'll have to open up like the two different phases of the transaction. One is the prepare phase, and the second one is the execute phase, and then we can kind of put our code into a more like organized format.
Yep. And in the prepare phase, since we're only dealing with one account, to send flow, we need to authorize it, but to receive flow, you don't need to be authorized. And so even though this is a two-party transaction, we need to authorize only one party. And the prepare statement is going to take in one account, and it's going to be auth account type. So that's inside of our prepare statement. And at this point, in the prepare statement, we have privileged access to the account. In essence, we have the ability to read and write to account storage, right, Jacob?
Yep, that's right, Morgan.
And where do we find our flow tokens, right? Same as everything else on Flow, those are hosted in account storage.
Yep.
And well, for one, we can grab a vault reference, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So some of the pains that come with Cadence is that when you want to do something like this, right, where you want to access your vault inside your account storage, is you actually have to go to the definition of the flow token contract and see where your vault was like initialized in your account storage and what path name the flow team used to actually store your flow token vault.
Right. Even though there is a standard for sort of defining that as part of the contract, and using like a placeholder, or not a placeholder, like a reference to the storage path. I think NFT for in like if you're going through the mainnet approval process, you have to define a let storage path equals whatever as part of the as part of the standard. So
Exactly, yeah. And I'll have to I do have to pause for a sec. I have to unfortunately run. I always hate leaving early, but this has been great. And yeah, please stick around with Morgan and ask those questions for the 100 FUSD.
Yes, this is the one time we're trying this. If this is a good thing, people love this, we're gonna do it more. So let's say thanks for Jacob for offering all this awesome knowledge, and we'll catch him on the next one. And I'll talk to you later, Jacob.
Thank you guys, and thank you, Morgan.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So now it's just the 10 of us, or however many are there joining the stream. I'm still waiting for your questions, by the way. Feel free to ask them on YouTube, because that's the thing that I have open right now. Yeah, we're going to implement a transaction that deposits some flow tokens with a receiver account. Okay. Yay. Thanks, Jay, for appreciating Jacob. He's a little bit under the weather these days, and having him here is really nice. All right. So let's explore how to interact with flow token. So let's say we want just a moment. I'm opening something up real quick. All right, so we want to get access to our token vault, which is the place where we're holding all of our flow tokens, and that's going to be the token vault. And we're going to take the account, which is an authenticated account, and we can borrow from it this specific address. So the address, the storage path rather, is storage/flow token vault, and the type here is going to be a reference to fungible token. Oops. Fungible token dot vault. All right, so we have a token vault, and I want to withdraw from that vault. Withdraw and a specific amount. So I'm going to send 10 flow. In this case, 10.0. Now this is a resource, all right? So we can't just leave it hanging there. We have to deposit it with someone. All right. So we want to let's call this the sender token vault, and I'm gonna add some new lines here for legibility. Okay. Maybe this works better. Okay. So we're borrowing a fungible token vault from this address for the sender and receiver token vault. Now here comes the difference. So we got this using the authenticated account because we have privileged access. We signed this, and we are going to get this using get account, or maybe even write this a little bit cleaner. Receiver get account, and I think there's an account that we can use. Mayrab, that's a really good question. So what is Dapper utility coin contract for? This is not flow token. This, in fact, is a token that's used on NBA Top Shot, and this is not something that's available for the community or is recommended for the community. So, yeah, this is just something internal for Dapper Labs, and I think it's been used on the NBA Top Shot project. All right, so we take the receiver, and then what do we do? Well, we need to get a capability. So let's make it clean. Capability, which is at that same address, but instead of storage, we're using public for the public portion. Token vault. All right. And we're going to borrow a reference of a specific type, an even more specific type. So this is flow token dot vault, and we need this to implement the fungible token dot receiver interface. Okay, we borrow this. We want to make sure that this went through. Otherwise, we just have some flow tokens hanging. And that's never a good thing. All right, so now let's add a message for our panic. So let's say, couldn't borrow a reference to receiver vault. Okay, it's a good panic. And finally, we're ready to deposit. So we take the receiver and we call the deposit function. And we're going to deposit from a vault. So it's like you have some flow tokens, you put them in a vault, and you want to send it to someone else, so that other person also has a flow token vault. So like those two vaults meet, flow exits one and enters in the other one, and the vault is lost in the process once it no longer has any flow inside of it. So we're going to do this. Okay. So that should, in principle, take care of our little assignment. Oops, typo. So transaction ID is what we get, and we want to wait until this is executed. So what we're gonna do is, after we declare this transaction, this FCL send request, we're going to let's see here. Well, let's wait until this transaction is sealed. So there's this once sealed. All right. And along the way, let's print everything so that we have some awareness of what's going on. Console log result. Okay, and this might break as a thing, so we're just gonna wrap it all inside of a try catch block, which is just a way to handle exceptions in JavaScript. Okay, so let's see if our button appears. So we have this button here, send flow, and what I'm gonna do is, let's see, testnet dot flow scan.org. Okay, let's look at this address. So it has 999 flow at the moment. Oh, it's a pretty active account, Mayrab. That's great. And I'm gonna click on that button and let's see if anything changes. Send flow. Blah 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 blah. Okay. So we get to see the script, what's inside of it, and we're sending 10 flow to this hard-coded account. Cool. Approve. And we got a transaction ID. That's good. And ooh, we got an error. Execution failed. Couldn't borrow a reference to receiver vault. Okay. Flow token vault. Interesting. Let's debug this. One moment. Oh, it's flow token receiver. Right, my bad. Since we're referencing a receiver. So we limit the capabilities that are available for us. All right, let's save this and reset. See if we can deliver the 10 flow as promised. We'll get to sign another transaction. Let's approve it. Nothing changed in the code itself. Nirmal is asking, hey Morgan, does Flow have gas fees for transactions? Not yet, but those are coming. Testnet, you don't have to worry about that at all. And on the mainnet, we'll see sometime in October. I think that's going live. To be announced though. And Farida is asking, what is the role of fungible token? Well, fungible token is just a standard. Kind of like ERC20 is a standard for Ethereum fungible tokens. All right, so we got a status for no error message and some events. Token withdrawn, deposited, withdrawn, deposited, deposited. Okay, what does that mean? How much flow does this person have now? Hey, we have 1,009 flow. Mayrab, can you confirm? Obviously, this is the blockchain, so no one can fake it. But this is how we send. This is how we send some flow. And oh, so there's a question also. Can you explain? Yes, I'm rich. Well, I'm happy to play a part in this quest. And when you're counting all those billions, please remember me. But a good question though, can you explain get capability? So let's not be afraid of opening up Flow docs and opening up the language reference. In here, we should find capability based access control. So with capabilities, what you get is a way to provide limited access. For example, and this is really great with Flow token. So with something that's authenticated, meaning I click the button approve, or I sign the transaction with a private key. In any case, I ended up providing authorized access to my account. Well, then I'm free to read from storage directly. And no one's gonna stop me from doing that and looking at every single part at what's inside of there, calling any function that's inside of there. And we can actually take a look at what Flow token vault is as a type. by looking at flow view source. So that link is flow view source, and we feed it an account. So, oops, here we go. So this account is hosting flow token, I believe, and oh, this is mainnet. We need test net. Okay, and we click on and open up the contract. Now what we're looking for is vault under flow token and what it is. All right, so right here is the pub resource definition of a vault, and it has things like balance, which is a variable. We have withdraw, deposit, and that's it. So if someone has full access to our storage, well, they can call withdraw, no questions asked. And we see that I did, in fact, call withdraw and had no trouble doing that, which is what I can do by just interacting with the storage directly. This requires authorized access. Now, if I'm interacting with something of a public account, and this is what I get by calling get account, well then I don't have access to storage. And when contracts expose certain capabilities or functionality, let's call it that, to public usage, then they create interfaces to define what those are. And as you can see, this vault is implementing 3 different interfaces: fungible token provider, receiver, and balance. Okay, so when someone creates this public interface or capability rather, located at /public/flow token receiver, well, the hint there is that it only will allow us to interact using the fungible token receiver interface. Well, you might ask, what is that? What's that interface all about? Well, we can use the same tools that we have used thus far. We get the address for testnet fungible token, and we open it up right here. Fungible token contract, and we're looking for receiver interface, and we found it. So when something provides us with the receiver interface, the only thing that we can call, the only thing that we can access is this deposit function, right? So in essence, with a capability, we can reference a specific public interface, and we can borrow individual references to one type of reference. So in this case, we're borrowing a reference that implements the receiver, which provides us with the deposit function, and that's all that it does. So receiver token vault we can use to deposit funds from the sender vault, because sender vault is fetched directly from storage using auth account, which requires us to sign this transaction, whereas receiver is fetching the receiver interface to a public capability, which allows us to limit what people can do with what's inside of our account storage. I hope that answers some of your inquiry, Mayrab, but further reading is always suggested, and this is the link to do just that. Jay is saying, sorry to disturb, but what is the theme you're using? It looks so good. I'm guessing you're asking about the VS Code theme. This is Dracula, I believe. I haven't changed it in a long time, and I think this is Dracula. So what I'll do is, we have this transaction on send. I'm going to leave Mayrab's account address You're free to change this to anything you want. My account address is, let me see. Let's execute the script to get the account address. So my account address is this. So as a test of your capabilities to run this and execute it locally, send me some testnet flow, and you'll get a thumbs up from me in the community. And for reference purposes, what I'll do is I'll add this. So final state of the flow developer hours, and we implemented a send flow transaction. Okay, so we sync it up with the repository, and it will be available for anyone and everyone to pull. Let's see here. Boom. So now it's synced up. So it's right here. As the stream started, I shared the link. I'm going to share it again. So if you download this, clone it locally, you'll get to play with this and send some real transactions and execute some real scripts using a basic React template. And this should get you going with a lot of the stuff that you might be working on. The key thing is to keep it simple and try to get the ball rolling. Like, the faster you get to execute transactions, the better. All right. Any further questions? This is your last chance. While I wait for your questions, let's see here. I'm going to include some links in the README. All right. This is how you browse existing contracts. How to make faster transactions. Well, I do agree that it does take some time. And I mean, it depends on your patience, but flow is pretty fast. Flow is pretty fast when it comes to executing transactions. You can't speed them up in the sense that you assign more gas fees and whatnot. Yeah, there's not a lot of congestion. Average times are probably 3 to 5 seconds if you're executing a transaction. So I would say this is not a concern, at least not a concern for now, and for us for sure. All right. So I guess with this final question, we're going to pack it up. A lot of thanks from the team at Decentology. Oh, one last question. Mayor Rab is asking if gas is not involved. So if I want to speed up my transaction, what to do? Well, you just send it early. Like, speeding it up as opposed to what? Like, if the transaction is light, doesn't require a lot of operations, then, you know, it's going to be executed quickly. Programming logic applies here as well. If you write an infinite loop, then, you know, it's going to take a lot longer than something that just writes to storage, or even more so if you're just executing a script. But yeah, speeding it up is not a thing that we do right now. They're sort of as fast as they can be, right? Okay, so this is truly it. Thank you all for tuning in. My name is Morgan. And with us we had Jacob from Decentology, and we discussed how to send some flow from one account to another, which was enabled by FCL and Create React App. Everyone please explore the repository. If you have any further questions, you'll find us on Slack. And on Slack in the Flow Developer Hour Slack channel, we'll share the winner, and we just hope that the winner has a valid Flow account on the mainnet. All right, from me, for now, this is it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye now.